Hey mathematics learners, welcome to Distance Learning with Lee, where I make learning mathematics super easy. So on today's video tutorial, guys, we're going to be tackling question 4.2. Question 4.2, guys, deals with hire purchase agreements. It deals with, compound interest, and it also deals with inflation. All right, we are still going through the grade 12 mathematical literacy paper 1 that was written by the grade 12 learners for the preliminary examination. Okay, and this was written by the Gauteng province learners. Okay, so please make sure that you're super engaged during this tutorial, that you're taking down notes, you're noting down where you made your mistake. And I know that compound interest tends to be a bit of a problem for most learners, especially when they tell you about interest is compounded quarterly, half yearly. Okay, it starts to become a problem. So please make sure that you're taking down notes as I'm going through this question with you guys. Okay, so without any further ado, guys, let's get started with today's video tutorial. So here in question 4.1, we are told that Marshall completed his studies and started a new job. So he earns a monthly gross income of 14,935, and he needs to buy a vehicle to drive to work and back daily. Okay, he would like to buy a small second-hand car from ABS dealership that offers finance on vehicles. He is interested in a Hyundai 2013 model that is available at 79,000 cash. He can buy the car on credit, okay, where he will be paying a deposit of 10,000 and 60 monthly installments of 1,985. This amount does not include insurance for the vehicle. Okay, so we're given a story here. We are told how much Marshall is getting paid per month, his gross monthly income, right? And we are told that he wants to buy a car, and we're told that if he buys this car cash, okay, he needs to pay 79,000. Okay, but if he decides to buy the car on credit, he'll have to cough up a deposit of 10,000 rand, and then he'll have to pay installments for 60 months, okay, of 1,985. So we need to ensure that we understand that very clearly. Question 4.2.1. What is the total amount that Marshall will repay for this vehicle if he decides to buy it on credit? Okay, so we are told that Marshall now decides to buy, if he decides to buy this vehicle on credit, how much would he actually pay towards this car? Okay, so remember, okay, this is what the concept that is tested with hire purchase agreements. You need to know that there's a deposit that is paid. We need to add that amount to it. We need to include that amount when we're trying to calculate the total amount that he has to pay, and we also need to include the monthly installments that he will pay. Okay, so to get the total amount, okay, question 4.2.1. Okay, so to get the total that he'll pay, right, if he buys it on credit, okay, we are going to take the deposit, okay, and then we're going to add the monthly, or let's just say we're going to add the total installments. Okay? So what does that mean? His deposit was 10,000 rand plus how many installments, okay, or how much will he be paying? He'll be paying 1,985 for 60 months. So he's going to be paying that amount for 60 months. Okay, so from there, you're just going to take that 10,000 rand, and then you're going to plus it with, what is 1,985 multiplied by 60? You get 119,100, and therefore if you punch this into your calculator, 10,000 plus 119,100 gives you 129,000 100. So if he actually decides to buy this car on credit, okay, he'll be paying 129,100. So that basically means that, okay, if 129,100 minus 79,000, he's going to be actually paying 50,000 more for this car if he decides to buy it on credit. So that's a lot. That is a lot. Okay, but I mean, you just need to think along those lines. How much more was, how much interest is he actually paying? He's paying 50,100 interest towards his car, right? When he buys it on credit. Cool stuff. Now let's have a look at question 4.2.2. Marshall claims that he would save more than 40,000 if he buys the car for cash compared to buying it on credit. Evaluate his statement by means of calculations to determine whether he is correct. So I've already said this, okay, that if you take the difference between how much he would pay, okay, if he buys it on credit and how much he pays if he buys it cash, that will basically help you determine, how much interest is he actually paying on this car. Okay, so for us to determine how much more he would actually pay, right, if he decides to buy the car on credit, right, we just need to take the difference. Okay, so for question 4.2.2, okay, remember we are given the cash price, okay, for the car, and we were told that it was 79,000. Okay, and then we were given the price that he will pay. We've calculated the price that he'll pay if he buys it on credit, and we calculated it to be 129,100. So how much he will save when he buys the car cash, you just need to take the difference. So you'll take the 129,100 minus 79,000, okay, and that will actually give us 50,100. So he'll actually save himself 50,100 if he decides to buy the car cash. So now let's look at the statement. What is the statement saying? The statement is saying that he claims that he could have saved more than 40,000, and we see that he could have saved, okay, 50,100, and that is more, okay, than 40,000. Therefore, we can just conclude that his statement is correct. He will save more than 40,000 if he buys the car cash. Cool stuff. Cool stuff. Now let's look at question 4.2.3. A loan offer is available from Trust Bank, and they offer a loan of 90,000 at an interest rate of 10% per annum, and the interest rate is added every quarter. Okay, the maximum period of the loan is 36 months. Now, question A, it says Marshall decides to take the loan over a period of 2 years. Okay, so he decides to now take the loan, okay, over a period of 2 years. Determine how much he would repay after 9 months. So it's very important here, right, that in this question, we are basically tackling compound interest. Okay, and what is compound interest? Compound, if interest is compounded, okay, that basically means that interest is added on interest. Okay, so when they add in your interest is not added on the initial amount, but the interest is added on the accumulated amount. Okay, for example, if you borrow 100 rand and you want to calculate how much you will pay, or if you want to calculate simple interest, okay, then you will just calculate the 100% multiplied by the interest rate multiplied by the period. Straightforward. Okay, however, when it deals with compound interest, right, interest is not added on the initial amount of 100 rand, but it's going to be added even on the accumulated amount. So if you borrowed 100 rand and they add interest of 20 rand, to calculate the interest for the second year, it's going to be now 120 multiplied by the interest rate. Okay, I hope I'm making sense, but let me just explain what's happening here. Okay, so here, what's very important that you guys need to understand is that, firstly, Okay, what is the period that we're working with? Secondly, what is the interest rate? So the first thing here, right, we are told that, okay, he's taking up a loan of 90,000 and, right, we are given that the interest rate is 10% per annum. So what does this mean? The maximum interest rate that he can be charged in 1 year is 10%. Okay, so you need to take note of that. But now, what does this compounded quarterly mean? Okay, it means that now interest gets charged on his loan amount every quarter. Okay, so how many quarters do we have in a year? So I always use this to help my learners understand. Okay, I'm gonna divide the circle into 4 quarters. Okay, I'm gonna divide the circle into 4 quarters. Okay, and how many months do we have in each quarter? We've got Jan, Feb, March, first quarter, May and June, second quarter, July, August, September, third quarter, October, November, December, fourth quarter. Okay, so our year has been divided into 4 quarters. So in each quarter, right, one quarter has 3 months. Okay, very important. Okay, another thing now, they're basically saying that, oh, this guy, right, Marshall, has now taken up this loan, right, and the interest rate is compounded quarterly. So the interest rate gets added, okay, every quarter. So it gets added January, February, March, then they will add the interest rate. April, May, June, then they will add interest on it. July, August, September, they will add interest. October, November, December, they will add interest. So interest gets added, okay, or the interest that interest on the amount that he has loaned gets added every quarter. Okay, so that's very important. But you need to note that now, even though interest is added every quarter, the maximum amount of interest that can be charged per annum is equal to 10%. So what does that mean? The first thing we need to calculate now when we're dealing with such questions, we need to calculate how much interest gets charged per quarter, and we also need to change the period, okay, to basically reflect quarters, okay, because interest is not just, we're not just working with a year or months, or interest is not added per month or per year, but interest gets added per quarter. So that basically means that we need to change the period, and we also need to change the interest rate that gets added each quarter. Okay, so now how do we calculate the interest rate? To calculate the interest rate, we're basically going to take that 10% and divide it by 4. Why are we dividing it by 4? Because interest gets added 1, 2, 3, 4 times in a year. Interest rate gets added each quarter, and we know that we've got 3 months in one, and we know that we've got 4 quarters in a year. Okay, so we take that 10%, we divide it by 4 because you've got 4 quarters in a year. Okay, so if you take that 10% and you divide it by 4, you'll see that you actually get 2.5%. Okay, so that is the interest rate that will be charged per quarter. Okay, and the next thing now, we need to obviously look at the period, okay, that interest will be charged. Okay, so let's see. So he decides to take up a loan over a period of 2 years. Determine how much he would pay after 9 months. So now we want to determine how much Marshall will actually pay after just 9 months of taking this loan. Okay, so to determine the amount that he will pay, okay, to determine the interest, remember now we're dealing with compound interest. Okay, the interest, okay, so to determine the interest that he will pay, then we need to just take the 9 months, okay, and we need to change that the period into quarters. Okay, so what do we know here? Remember, I've given you guys an equation, okay, that will help us convert the period of months into quarters. Okay, so what we're going to do, we're going to take that 9 months, we're going to multiply it by what we want. We want our period to be in quarters, and divide by what we have. We have our period in months, so it's 3 months. Okay, so if you do that, you'll just see that 9 divided by 3 is 3 quarters. Okay, so what does this mean? We want to calculate how much interest he will pay in the first quarter. Okay, how much interest he will pay in the second quarter, how much interest he will pay in the third quarter, right? And then we'll be able to then determine how much he would have paid towards his loan, right? In just 9 months. Okay, so let's just do that. So we're going to calculate the interest, okay, in the first quarter. We are just going to take the amount that he borrowed, 90,000, multiplied by, right, the interest rate of 2.5%, so 2.5 divided by 100 multiplied by, it's just y, okay, because it's just the first quarter. We're going to do this calculation 3 times because we've changed the period to basically include quarters, right? And we've also changed the interest rates to basically account for the fact that interest is added every quarter. Okay, so if you take 90,000, you multiply by 2.5 over 100, okay, you'll get that the interest that he will be charged in the first quarter is 2,250. Okay, so that is the interest that he will be charged in the first quarter. Now remember, okay, because we are dealing with compound interest, we know that interest is calculated on accumulated amount. So therefore, before we can calculate the interest that he'll be charged in the second quarter, we're going to take that 90,000, then we're gonna plus 2,250, okay? And if you take 90,000 and you plus 2,250, you'll get that now, right? He now owes 92,250, okay, in the first quarter. Okay, now we need to continue. How much interest is he charged in the second quarter? Okay, remember, okay, we're going to take now this accumulated amount of 92,250 multiplied by the interest rate that is added per quarter, okay, and you'll get 2,306.25 cents. So that is the interest that will be added, okay, to his loan amount in the second quarter. Okay, that is the interest that will be added in the second quarter, right? So what does this mean now? Before we can calculate the interest that is added in the third quarter, we just need to now take that 92,250 plus the interest that is added of 2,306.25, and that will basically give us 94,556.25. So that is how much he now owes, okay, towards this loan in the second quarter, right? So now we want to calculate the interest that he'll be charged in the third quarter, okay, we'll just take that 94,556.25 multiply by 2.5 over 100, okay, and that will basically give you 2,363.90625, which is approximately equal to 2,363.91. So that is the interest that he will be charged or that will be added, okay, in the third quarter. Okay, so meaning that in the third quarter, right, the total that he'll basically owe, okay, will therefore be that 94,556.25 plus 2,363.91. If you punch that into a calculator, you will get that he will then owe 96,920.16, right, in the third quarter. So Going back to the question, okay, how much would he repay after 9 months? So the amount that he would actually repay after 9 months is 96,920.60 cents. Okay, so this question is a bit jam-packed, right? So let me try to just go through this again. The first thing that we need to note, right, when we're dealing with compound interest is that interest is added on the accumulated amount. Okay, but with simple interest, interest is just added on the initial value. So if you borrowed 100 rand, they will just add that 2.5 on that initial 100 rand. But when you're dealing with compound interest, interest is added on accumulated amount. So if we've calculated the interest for the first year, to calculate the interest for the second year, we need to add that interest that you were charged on the first year, okay, to calculate the new interest for the second year. So interest is calculated on the accumulated amount. So now with this question, we are told that, okay, when it comes to the interest rate, right, we are told that the maximum interest rate that Marshall will be charged, right, is 10%. So for that whole year, the maximum interest rate that will be added to his amount is 10%. But now we need to take into consideration how many times they keep adding interest to the amount that he borrowed. And we are told that they keep adding the interest to the amount that he borrowed every quarter. So interest is compounded quarterly. Interest is added every quarter. So for us to be able to understand what's happening there, we need to just establish how many months do we have in a quarter. Okay, so I've showed you guys, right, that in each quarter we've got 3 months. So 1 quarter is equal to 3 months, and this is going to be very, very crucial when it comes to now us being able to convert the period that is given to us to quarter. Because if interest is compounded quarterly, that means that now when we're calculating interest, we are calculating interest looking at how many times is that interest added quarterly. Okay, so it's very important we change the year or the period to quarters, and we also change our interest rates to basically include the fact that interest is getting added per quarter. So the first thing we need to do, we need to change the interest rate. If it's added per quarter, that means that how many quarters do we have in a year? We've got 4 quarters. So we're going to take that 10%, we divide by 4. Okay, so I've shown you why is it 4 quarters. We've got 4 quarters in a year. Okay, I've showed you guys this. So we're going to take that 10%, we divide by 4, we get 2.5%. So every time that interest is added in each quarter, 2.5% is added, okay, in the first quarter. 2.5 interest is added in the second quarter. 2.5 third quarter. 2.5 fourth quarter. Maximum interest 10%. Then the next thing we need to determine now, we want to change the period. So in this case, right, we are given how much would he have to repay after 9 months. We just need to take that 9 months, and we need to change the months into quarters because interest is compounded quarterly. So you need to multiply by what we want, divide by what we have, and this will basically convert the period into quarters. Okay, so we'll find that, okay, we're basically dealing with 3 quarters. Okay, so that basically means that we're going to repeat this calculation 3 times. Okay, so we're going to repeat this calculation 3 times. So interest on the first quarter, right? How do you calculate interest on the first quarter? Okay, right? You take that 90,000, you multiply by the interest rate times 1. Okay, even if you don't multiply by 1, it's just interest in the first quarter. This is how much interest that will be added, okay, to the amount that he borrowed in the first quarter. Now, to calculate the interest on the second quarter, we take that now. The accumulated amount, 90,000 plus the interest rate, Okay, and we got that is 92,250. Now we multiply with the interest rates, and that will give us the interest that is charged in the second quarter. Okay, they're charging him 2,306.25. Then now we want the accumulated amount. Take the 92,250 plus 2,306.25. Then the total amount, this is basically helping us to get the accumulated amount. That means that in the second quarter, the total amount that he owes past bank is 94,556.25. We are not done. We need to calculate then the interest that is charged in the third quarter, that 94,556.25, right? Multiplied by the interest rate that gives us the interest that will be added in the third quarter is 2,363.91. Therefore, the total amount that he will owe to this bank after just 3, 6, 9 months is 96,920. All right. So this is a lot. Okay. It's a lot. If you were to check how much interest is added in the first quarter, second quarter, first quarter, sorry, the interest that is added in the first quarter, interest that is added in the second quarter, interest that is added in the third quarter, you can see that okay, this it's a lot. Okay, he's going to be paying a lot when it comes to interest towards this car. All right, so this is very important. If we were just dealing with simple interest, right, and it is and simple interest was added per quarter, we're just going to take the 90,000 multiplied by 2.5 over 100 multiplied by 3. Okay, it was going to be a quick and easy thing, but remember, because now it's compounded, okay, quarterly, okay, then we need to remember that interest is added on accumulated amount. So we need to go through all these steps to help us then calculate how much you would have to repay after 9 months. Okay, so this is one of those topics that will just make you like, okay, you need to practice. Okay, you need to look at past papers that deal with this question. Okay, where it's compound interest. Simple interest is easy peasy lemon squeezy. I'm going to show you guys how you deal with that. Compound interest is the one where you really need to be careful, because now interest is calculated on the accumulated amount. I hope I managed to clarify that for you guys. All right, cool stuff. Question B, 4.2.3. Marshall is considering buying a new vehicle in a few years. He needs to take inflation into consideration. Remember, guys, inflation, when we're talking about inflation, when I'm saying the inflation, due to inflation, the price of bread increased, right? We're just talking about, if something was 10 rand, due to inflation, next year it will be 16 rand. Okay, it increases the value of something. Okay, so that is basically what they're talking about. Okay, we are given the expected inflation rates for the next 3 years. We are told that in 2024, the inflation rate is 1.2%. 2025, the inflation rate is 0.5%. In 2026, the inflation rate is 1.05%. Okay, so we basically it's telling us that that is the rate of inflation. That is how much something is going to increase by, okay, in the given years. A new Hyundai is currently priced at 139,800. Determine how the 2023 price of the Hyundai will change over the next 2 years and whether it would be wise for him to wait. Okay, so I'm gonna just try to do this question here. Yeah, let's just do this question here. Right, so we are told that the current price, okay, of the Hyundai is, okay, in 2023, the current price is 139,800. Okay, so now he wants to determine, right, should he wait? Okay, should he wait? Maybe it will be cheaper in 2024 and in 2025. Okay, so we want to confirm, we want to help him decide, would it be wise for him to wait? Maybe the Hyundai will be cheaper in the next 2 years. So now we want to calculate how much will the price be in 2024. How much will the price of the Hyundai be in 2025 if the inflation rate for 2024 is 1.5%? if the inflation rate for 2025 is 0.5%. So how are we going to do that? We are just going to take that 100, okay? We are just going to take that 139,800. We're going to multiply it by the inflation rate of 1.25%. Remember, it's percentage you divide by 100 to give us how much will the price increase by in 2024. So it's 139,800 multiplied by 1.25 divided by 100. That tells us that the price of this car in 2024 will increase by 1,747.50, meaning that the price of this Hyundai in 2024 will be 139,800 plus 1,747.50, which is 141,547.50. So that is how much this Hyundai will be in 2024. That's a lot. That's a lot, right? So now let's look at 2025. So remember, to calculate now the price in 2025, we need to use the price in 2024, okay? And you multiply with the inflation rate for 2025. Okay, so then in this case, we're just going to take the price in 2024 of 141,547.50 multiplied by the inflation rate in 2025, 0.5%. That is why I'm dividing by 100. That is going to give me 707.7375. So it's already telling us that now the price is going to increase by 707.74 cents, meaning that the price for this car in 2025 will be 141,547.50 plus, okay, 707.7375. I'm not rounding off, right? And that is, it's going to be 142,255.24. I'm just rounding off now, okay, to 2 decimal places, and that's the answer. So would it be wise for him to wait? No, definitely it wouldn't be wise for him to wait, because we see that in 2023 it's way cheaper, because now if we take the inflation into consideration, in 2024 he's going to be paying 141,547.50 cents. In 2025 he's going to be paying 142. No, so we can see that the price for this car now is increasing too much, okay? So therefore it would be just wise for him to buy the car in 2023. Okay, it won't be wise for him to wait. It would not be wise for him to wait. I think you can write that sentence down, guys. We are done with this past paper. Hope you guys enjoyed going through this past paper with me. I think most importantly, I think I've mentioned this, okay, from what we've seen, that it's just mostly data handling, taxation, exchange rates, and your finance questions in terms of calculating compound interest, inflation, simple interest. Okay, so just make sure that really when it comes to these topics you are spot on, okay, because that's what it looks like. They like asking when it comes to paper one for your preliminary exams, okay. But I mean, at the end of the day, guys, you need to study everything, because when it comes to paper two, it contains measurements, maps, and plans. So it's at the end of the day, you need to study everything. But it's always also just good to just go through past papers and just see what was happening in the previous year, so that you also get an idea of what you need to do. All right, so I hope you guys enjoyed these video tutorials. Hope you guys enjoy obviously just also seeing me while I explain. you'll let me know how you feel about that. Just trying out something new so that it's, there's a connection. You feel like, I'm your teacher, I'm there with you, teaching you, taking you through these things. Because sometimes, when you're explaining, I feel like gestures are also very important. Also just watching someone probably explaining things to you makes it feel more like I'm there with you. So I think the video there adds a personal touch to these tutorials. So you're gonna be seeing more of my face, right? And yeah, guys, so I'm gonna see you guys on my next video tutorials. We are going to be tackling paper two, and hopefully I'll make it to looking at another province past paper. So just comment down below which province you'd like for me to go through next before your exam, and let's go through paper one of that past paper. All right, guys, so that is it, and I'll see you guys on my next upload. That is it, guys, and I'll see you guys on my next upload, Distance Learning with Lee, where I make learning mathematics super easy. Bye, guys.